the sciences they believe they need to recreate perfect humans to serve them better in the future. And I'm not kidding about this. They have these, they call them arcs, set up. I watched a public broadcasting program 2 or 3 years ago on a rainy Sunday afternoon, and they had a professor on from a university in Louisiana, and she was in charge of a huge center, biggest state in Louisiana, for cryogenics, where they had everything, the genes of every animal and insect frozen, and they had experimented in bringing them back to life, bringing the male and female together and inserting them in different species even as a host carrier and giving birth quite satisfactorily to them. This is all done at higher levels, and it was the World Wildlife Society that owned this ark. They have 3 of them, they claim, that one society worldwide. I can bet something else too about this big ark in the sky. The space station, the International Space Station, ISIS, will also be another ark. And that was foreseen a long time ago in the 1500s, by someone with the high mystery religion, who was not crystal gazing as he told the public, but he knew the agenda. They knew there were unraveling sciences back then, and they knew what they could do with the wealth of the world and all the labor of the world to work towards their big idea. And it's pretty well happened. Everything we're taught about science at the bottom level, and that's from professorship down, is obsolete. Everything they tell you they're working towards is actually done and obsolete, gone. The bottom levels are still rediscovering things all the time. The Dolly the sheep thing was a bottom level attempt. It's already been done. That's why it's called research. The searching was done above them long ago. And all the problems have been ironed out. Now, the only problem they have left is how to keep us all, Pavlovian style, playing ourselves and enjoying ourselves like never before, like there's no tomorrow, while they pull the rug from under our feet. And that's what's happening now with the totalitarian system being set up. I wondered why in the 90s, the mid-90s, that we suddenly had all these big disaster programs, even across Canada, in little potato towns where nothing happened. And they were having disaster scenarios with these new disaster agencies and controls that they set up. They never had that during the Cold War, when supposedly we're going to get nuked any time and any day, every week, every year, year after year. And after the Cold War, they were having all of these disaster scenarios and rehearsals. Why? It's really to do with what's scheduled to happen and is happening. As a snowball starts to come down the hill and get bigger and bigger, as they devalue the dollars, as they create the new world society and pull the rug from under our feet financially and so on, it's all to take care of the riots that will ensue across the world. And that's why the Department of Defense put out a 90-page report on the next 30 years of what they see coming. Now, these guys are not paid big money. They don't hire the best of the best in their fields to sit and guess at what's going to come along. They know what's coming along. They're not telling you why there's going to be massive rioting across the planet, but what they are telling you is what they're doing to prepare for the rioting across the planet. And they foresee 30 years of it. They even have small nuclear-type bombs, battlefield bombs, to use on the public. Now, what on earth do you think is planned that would drive the general public, who are out rewarding themselves and having sex 2.5 times a week and all that kind of stuff right now? What do you think would get them away from television, from the sports and all the rest of it, and start rioting? Well, maybe it's turning off the electricity, for one thing. Maybe it's by forcing them to pay 4 or 5 times as they're paying now for fuel and gasoline and electricity and all the other energies that we use. Maybe it's rationing the food. It's going to be all of these things, all of it. And believe you me, no one man is going to stop this in any country. It's not going to happen because you have a global elite who've planned this for a long time, and the interactions of all their associations are finally meshed together like never before, and they have been actually for a long time. Professor Carroll Quigley talked about it, and he was in on this whole big secret. He was the official historian for the American branch, Council on Foreign Relations, of the Royal Institute for International Affairs, that helped plan all this. The same guys that planned and came out on national television in Canada. They planned the integration of the Americas. They drafted all of the integration scenarios up for them to sign, all the forms for them to sign, the agreements and treaties for presidents to sign. They boasted about it on national television, CBC Canada. A private, non-governmental organization drafted the treaties up. And you still think you live in a democracy. And the moon's a balloon, as David Niven said. And we're on a roll like never before. And it's time to get off your Jack Duff and start talking fast and hard to those who can change things. Back after these messages. Back, cutting through the matrix. And we have an odd one on the phone here. It's called Hippopotamus Anonymous, who's called in. Are you there, Hippo?
Yes, hi, Alan. How are you?
Not so bad.
That's good. I heard you were a little under the weather. I listened to your blurb.
I opened the window and influenza.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't get taxed on it up there, I hope.
No.
Okay. Hey, Alan, I tell you, the 31st, I was really looking forward to hearing you, and I guess since you were sick, that's why I didn't. But I only started listening to you very recently, and I tell you, you've been one hell of an inspiration to me as a writer.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for your integrity and your honesty. And I tell you, I'm really I'm getting into my 40s now, and I'm really tired of being tricked by the magicians that are running things, these magical people. Mm-hmm. And but I have a proposition out here for and I wrote you a letter actually. Maybe what I'll do is just email it to you. But I've become very suspicious of this deified Ron Paul character, and I know a few people have called in. I've heard a few people mention this, but it almost seems heretical to say it on the Patriotic Network. But there's a tape out there that the Patriots should look at, and it's a 1988 episode of the Morton Downey Jr. show. I don't know if you remember him. Do you remember Morton Downey Jr.?
No.
Okay, he was a precursor to the Jerry Springers and the Slaughter Riveras, and they can find Ron Paul in the crude, real flesh, yelling and yucking it up and sliming around. And it's very interesting. In the audience, there's our friend Bo Greitz. And it's a very interesting tape. It's on YouTube. I know you don't go to YouTube very often. But
I know Bo Greitz was in the audience, you said?
Bo Greitz was in the audience. It was very interesting. He was there ostensibly to discredit the doctor. But what happened was, it was interesting, Ron Paul yells over to Bo Greitz and addresses him by name and calls George A. Herbert